As an entrepreneur in this space, it's good to just be part of a discussion of consumer devices, period, in a venture and entrepreneur forum. Our next speaker may have a different perspective on this, but as I go out and talk to the venture community, it's clear to me that this is an undervalued space. Typically, it's a special minority who sees the opportunity here. It is certainly true that consumer devices, when you are looking at the business from an entrepreneur's perspective, requires special discipline in operations and capital efficiency, and all of those things must be considered. And if you are an entrepreneur and you don't have the expertise in operations and retail and consumer marketing, then please go hire it. But that said, obviously the consumer space, as has been presented here, is a huge space. It can be lucrative, and consumers like to buy stuff. This isn't a commentary on consumerism. It is a very natural consumer behavior. When you put down your money, you feel much better walking away with a physical item. It's why Best Buy is Best Buy. It's why we have so many devices in our lives. It's easier, in my view, to monetize these consumer device businesses than it is some of the investments that have been made in the hopeful web world. And let's face it, big CE, well, let's just say big CE leaves us plenty of room to innovate and produce value in the ecosystems around them, because the innovation often doesn't come from there. But lastly, I will say we have to be careful as we think about innovating. We in the Valley tend to convince ourselves of the next big thing, and then either by intention or by accident, we design for the early adopter or the enthusiast. In my mind, enthusiast is another word for niche. Niche is not necessarily a bad market if, in fact, you are aiming for a niche, but if you are aiming for the mainstream, then we must respect the fact that the mainstream does not have time, they do not have patience to deal with technology, and they don't have the attention that perhaps some of our more sophisticated products require. Which brings us to the question outlined in the summary of this panel, which is what's important? What's important in the consumer space, and in our view, clearly the key thing is user experience. In my view, the whole point of a product being advanced is to make it simple, not the reverse. So advanced should be simple, and really advanced should be automatic. And I think we are in many cases a long way from that. In our case, and I will talk a little bit about us today, but only to the extent of trying to make my overall points. In our case, we are in the business of selling convenience and time saving as much as we are in selling technology. We try to make effortless what is otherwise a hassle for the everyday consumer. And as we think about that, and as we try to apply it to the consumer space, I'll just leave you with this thought. The richest consumer experience is not the one that allows you to do the most. It is the one that requires you to do the least. Thank you. For those of you who don't know what iFi does, we make a wireless memory card. It's literally an SD card that goes in your digital camera with Wi-Fi built inside of it, and it automatically uploads your photos from your camera to your computer and to your favorite photo sharing website. Earlier this week at Where2O, we introduced a new product called iFi Explorer, which not only does that, but also gives you access at 10,000 hotspots around the US, so you can upload your photos on the go, and also includes automatic geotagging. So when your photos show up on your favorite photo sharing website, they're automatically tagged with the location they were taken. Now, we, in doing all of that, have some special limitations. And in this case, I view these limitations as very much a good thing. I think they have led us through creativity and led us to simplicity that is the model for the consumer business. So let me give you a flavor of the kinds of issues that CE devices have to deal with, the kinds of limitations that I think a creative entrepreneurial audience will do better than big CE. Now, in the first case, the camera in our universe is unaware. The camera is unaware of its connectivity. The camera doesn't see our product any different than it sees a regular memory card. So there's no interface. Unlike your laptop, which has a screen and a keyboard, you go into a T-Mobile hotspot and you can get on by logging in your credentials. You don't have that opportunity with a memory card sticking in your digital camera, and the camera is not aware of it. So the card needs to behave on its own. It needs to be autonomous. It needs to handle all of its own networking. It needs to handle the consumer experience for the consumer instead of with the consumer. The third is there's no feedback. The consumer has no feedback what's going on with the experience because, again, the host device completely unaware that it's going on. So again, it has to be all automatic. Now, we have solved all of these problems by a lot of advanced technology, but from the consumer standpoint, it is truly as easy as turning on your camera. You walk into your home Wi-Fi or a wayport location, turn on your camera, the card wakes up, starts doing its thing, it uploads your photos are delivered where they're supposed to be, and that's the user's experience, and that's the way it should be, as we see it anyway. Which brings us, I think, to the next question is, what is it going to take to succeed? Is it hardware? Is it software? Is it content distribution? Our view, of course, is that it is yes, yes, and yes. It's all of these things. What we do is a device plus a service that are combined, they are aimed at content distribution. In this case, content is your memories and getting them to where you want them to go. In our case, the smarts are built both into the device itself, the card that's sitting in your camera, as well as the network, and this is important. For instance, in the case of geotagging, we leverage the presence of the mobile device all around. Right? The Wi-Fi wakes up and it sees Wi-Fi networks all around it, so we leverage the fact that the device is mobile and we can see access to a lot of Wi-Fi hotspots, but the processing of where you are, that location processing, we actually push to the server, so we are very power efficient for the mobile device, which consumers care about a lot. They don't care where the processing is done, and we leverage the power of the network to do all the heavy lifting, let's say. And this brings me to the sort of big point that I want to share with you, and that is that I think we need to think about networking and think about connectivity in a very broad sense. We need to think about the definition of connectivity very broadly. There's a lot of talk about always-on devices, and some of them will be very, very fun and very sophisticated, and all of us in this room will covet them when we see them on Gizmodo. But there is a huge opportunity in consumer electronics, true classic consumer electronics, in connecting devices that are not laptops, that are not smartphones, that are not PDAs. They may be books in the case of Amazon's Kindle. They may be sort of the next generation of alarm clock radios in the case of Chumby. They may be umbrellas in the case of Ambient. These are all consumer devices that have some benefit by being connected, but not necessarily always connected. There's also a definition of connectivity like Logitech's Harmony remote control, which taps into a database on the internet, but the consumer isn't experiencing it that way. And then, of course, in the world of digital cameras, there's Wi-Fi connecting a camera that is otherwise not connected. Our device is not always connected. It's connected when it needs to be. And even when it's not connected, it can sense Wi-Fi networks around it and capture that data and make it useful later. So I guess my overall point is, as we think about connectivity and as you are thinking about new markets, let's not be blinded to the opportunities beyond truly smart, truly mobile, intelligent computing devices.